The grand lobby of Hotel Beaumont glittered under the chandelier's light. Golden walls reflected a kind of wealth most people could only dream of. The staff rushed around, rehearsing smiles that didn't always reach their eyes. The whispers were already circulating. "The millionaire is coming today." No ordinary guest, but a French business tycoon named Monsieur Laurent Duval, known for buying and selling companies with a single conversation. Everyone wanted to impress him. For the hotel's manager, Mr. Carter, this visit was more than a challenge. It was his test of pride and professionalism. Carter had built a reputation on perfection. He liked control, rehearsed politeness, and a flawless staff that never made mistakes. He had carefully selected who would stand in the lobby when Monsieur Duval arrived. Every smile had to be polished, every bow precise, every greeting rehearsed. But then, the unexpected happened. At exactly 11 a.m., a sleek black limousine rolled up the driveway. The glass doors of the hotel slid open, and the lobby hushed in anticipation. Mr. Carter adjusted his tie, wiped invisible sweat from his forehead, and signaled the bellboys to be ready. When the door opened, Monsieur Duval stepped out, tall, refined, wearing an elegant suit tailored in Paris. He carried himself like a man who knew the world bowed to him. "Bienvenue à l'Hôtel Beaumont," Carter began nervously, practicing the single French line he had memorized the night before. But Duval didn't respond in English. Instead, he unleashed a flood of rapid French, his voice deep and commanding. The manager froze. The words rolled out too quickly, filled with complex tones Carter couldn't follow. He had expected Duval to respond in English, as most rich foreigners did. But instead, the Frenchman spoke entirely in his native tongue. Pardon, monsieur," Carter stammered, his face stiffening. He looked at the other staff for help. None of them understood. The bellboys exchanged confused glances. The receptionist avoided eye contact, and in that moment, panic clawed at Mr. Carter's chest. If he failed to communicate with the hotel's most important guest, it wouldn't just be his embarrassment. It could cost him his job. Duval's eyes narrowed slightly, as if already disappointed. He repeated his request, slower this time, but still in French. The lobby's golden elegance suddenly felt suffocating. Guests in the lounge turned their heads, sensing the tension. A millionaire was speaking, the manager didn't understand, and silence hung like a blade in the air. Carter's hands shook slightly. Think. Maybe he's asking for his reservation. For directions? For something simple? But before he could even guess, the moment was interrupted. From the far corner of the lobby, where the maids usually kept out of sight, a soft but confident voice spoke up. "Excusez-moi, monsieur. Je peux vous aider?" Heads turned. It was Amara, the black maid. Dressed in her simple uniform, holding a stack of freshly folded towels, she had stepped forward. Her French was flawless, smooth, respectful, and without hesitation. Monsieur Duval's eyes lit up. He turned toward her, surprise flickering into delight. "Ah, enfin, quelqu'un qui parle ma langue." The words flowed between them with ease. Duval asked his questions, and Amara answered with calm precision. She translated his needs effortlessly, confirming his suite, asking about his luggage, and explaining small details about his preferences. In the span of a minute, what had been a humiliating crisis for the manager had become a moment of effortless control for the maid. But Carter didn't feel relief. He felt anger. How dare she step out of her role? Maids were supposed to clean quietly, not speak in front of important guests. His pride stung, his authority bruised. Yet he couldn't interrupt. Duval was now smiling, even laughing slightly, clearly impressed with Amara. The other staff members whispered among themselves. No one had known she could speak French. Who was this maid who carried herself with such hidden intelligence? As Amara finished translating, Duval gave her an approving nod. Merci beaucoup, mademoiselle. Votre français est impeccable. She bowed her head slightly, murmuring, Je vous en prie, monsieur. And just like that, the atmosphere shifted. The millionaire had been impressed, the staff was in awe, and the manager stood frozen in his own humiliation. But this was only the beginning. For Amara, that single moment would change everything. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She had been noticed. And soon, the world inside the golden walls of Hotel Beaumont would never look at her the same way again. After Monsieur Duval was escorted to his suite, thanks entirely to Amara's quick thinking, the lobby finally exhaled. The bellboys shook their heads in disbelief, the receptionist whispered to another staff member, and even the security guards couldn't stop glancing at the maid who had suddenly become the star of the day. But for Mr. Carter, the humiliation had only just begun. He locked himself in his office, slamming the polished oak door behind him. His reflection in the mirror above the desk stared back, pale and angry. A maid! A mere maid! Making me look incompetent in front of the most important guest we've had this year. His jaw clenched. This hotel runs on hierarchy, he muttered to himself. The manager leads, the staff follows. That's the order. And she dared to speak out of turn. But beneath his anger was something far uglier. Fear. Because when Monsieur Duval had smiled at Amara, it wasn't the polite smile he gave most strangers. It was a genuine spark of respect. And in that short exchange, Carter had realized something horrifying. This maid had gained influence over their most valuable guest. Meanwhile, in the staff quarters, Amara sat quietly, folding linen with her usual care. Her fellow maid, Clara, sat beside her, wide-eyed. Amara, she whispered, how on earth do you know French? Amara gave a small smile. It's a long story. Clara leaned closer. Tell me, please. Everyone's dying to know. Amara hesitated, her hands still smoothing the edges of a pillowcase. She wasn't one to boast, and she certainly didn't want to draw more attention than necessary. But Clara had been her closest friend since she joined the hotel, so she finally spoke. I wasn't always like this, Amara began softly. My mother was a teacher. She believed education was the only thing no one could take away from you. When I was a girl, she managed to get me into a program run by missionaries and professors. They taught us English, French, sometimes even little bits of Spanish. I loved languages. They felt like keys, like doors to other worlds. Clara's mouth dropped. So, you've been hiding this all along? Amara shrugged gently. Not hiding. Just, no one ever asked. And in this place, people don't see what a maid can do. They only see the uniform. There was no bitterness in her tone, only quiet acceptance. But Clara saw the flicker of sadness in her eyes. Later that evening, Amara was summoned to the front desk. She expected a reprimand. After all, maids weren't supposed to step out of line. But instead, the receptionist whispered urgently, Monsieur Duval specifically requested you to deliver his tea tonight. He said you have une grâce naturelle. Amara blinked. Natural grace. She felt her cheeks warm. She wasn't used to compliments, especially not from people of such stature. With trembling hands, she prepared the tea tray, steadying herself before entering the suite. Inside, Monsieur Duval greeted her warmly. "Ah, Mademoiselle Amara," he said, switching effortlessly to French. "You surprised me today. Your French is not just fluent, it's alive." Amara lowered her eyes modestly. "Merci, monsieur. I only did what I could to help." He chuckled. "Do you know how rare it is to find someone in your position with such refinement? Tell me, where did you learn?" And so, for the first time in years, Amara shared her story with someone outside the staff. She told him about her mother, about studying under flickering lamps, about reading books passed down from travelers. Duval listened with genuine interest, nodding thoughtfully. "You have talent," he said firmly. "Far too much to be hidden in laundry rooms." The words struck her like lightning. For so long she had accepted her place quietly, believing society had already decided her fate. But here was a man of immense influence, telling her she was meant for more. But not everyone shared Duval's admiration. From the hallway, Manager Carter had been listening through the half-open door, his fists clenched tighter with every word. A maid sharing stories with the guest, sitting there as if she belongs. "No, I cannot allow this. She's stealing my place, my dignity. If I don't put her back in her corner, she'll outshine me completely." That night, in his office, Carter devised a plan. He would undermine her. He would remind everyone that Amara was just a maid, replaceable, disposable. He would make sure Duval saw her as unprofessional, unworthy of trust. Because for Carter, this wasn't just about the hotel anymore. It was about power. The next day, rumors spread. Staff whispered that the manager was furious. Some claimed Carter had told the board Amara was overstepping. Others said he was looking into her past to find something discrediting. Clara warned Amara in hushed tones, "Be careful. Carter's not going to let this go." But Amara only smiled faintly. "I didn't do anything wrong. I just spoke a language." What she didn't realize was that sometimes a single act of truth was enough to shake the foundations of pride built on lies. And for Carter, his pride was cracking. The morning sun lit up the marble floors of Hotel Beaumont, but inside the staff hallways, the air felt heavy. Whispers spread quickly. The manager's plotting something. Everyone knew Carter's pride had been bruised, and no one doubted he would strike back. Amara carried her cleaning supplies as usual, her steps quiet, her heart steady. She had learned long ago that when the world underestimates you, silence is your greatest shield. But deep down, she sensed the storm building. That afternoon, Monsieur Duval requested Amara once again. He had grown fond of conversing with her in French, enjoying her intelligence and humility. He even asked her opinion on local art galleries and cultural sites. Amara blushed with every question, answering shyly, but the respect in his eyes gave her courage. Unbeknownst to them, Carter had been waiting for this moment. He approached the suite while Amara was inside. Bursting through the door with exaggerated urgency, he interrupted their conversation. "Forgive me, Monsieur Duval," Carter said breathlessly, "but I must warn you. This maid is not who she seems." Amara froze. Duval's brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" Carter smirked, sensing control return to his hands. "She pretends to be refined, but she is nothing more than a servant with delusions. She is overstepping her role, intruding where she does not belong. I suspect she's been manipulating you, monsieur, to gain your favor." The words hung heavy in the room. Amara's face burned with humiliation. She had done nothing wrong, yet Carter's voice dripped with venom that made her feel small again. Like all the years she had tried to rise above her station were being erased in an instant. But Duval did not respond immediately. Instead, he turned slowly toward Amara. His eyes softened, silently urging her to speak. Amara took a shaky breath. "Monsieur, I never meant to disrespect anyone. I spoke French only because you needed it. I cleaned your room because it is my duty. I never asked for more." She paused, her voice breaking slightly. "But if kindness, if knowledge, if speaking from the heart is a crime, then I am guilty." For a moment, silence filled the suite. Then Duval rose from his chair, his expression unreadable. He walked past Carter and stopped before Amara. Looking directly at her, he spoke firmly in French. "Vous n'avez rien fait de mal. C'est votre honnêteté qui vous élève." "You have done nothing wrong. It is your honesty that elevates you." Amara's eyes widened. Relief washed over her, but also something deeper. Validation. Duval turned sharply toward Carter, his tone colder now. "And you, Monsieur Carter, tell me, is this how you treat talent? By crushing it under your pride?" Carter's face paled. "Monsieur, I was only protecting the standards of the hotel." "Standards," Duval cut him off. "A true leader recognizes value, no matter where it is found. This young woman showed intelligence, respect, and courage, while you showed only fear of being overshadowed." The manager stuttered, searching for words but found none. Duval raised his voice so even the staff waiting outside could hear. "If this hotel wishes to maintain my business, it will not silence voices like hers. In fact," he turned to Amara, his stern expression softening again, "would you consider working for me directly? As an interpreter, perhaps even as a cultural assistant? I travel widely, and I need someone with not just language, but integrity." The room gasped. Clara, peeking through the hallway, nearly dropped the tray she was carrying. Amara's lips parted in disbelief. "Monsieur, you would offer that to me?" "Oui," he said with a warm smile. "Because dignity and intelligence deserve to be seen. You belong far beyond the shadows of this hotel." Tears welled in Amara's eyes. For so long she had been invisible, defined only by her uniform. And now, for the first time, someone of power was telling her she was more. News spread like wildfire. By evening, the entire hotel staff knew. Some were inspired, others envious, but none could deny the truth. The maid who had been overlooked had risen higher than anyone imagined. As for Carter, his downfall was swift. The board of directors, informed of the incident, reprimanded him for his unprofessional behavior. His pride, once untouchable, now lay in pieces. He avoided Amara's gaze in the halls, knowing the very person he tried to silence had become his undoing. On her last day at Hotel Beaumont, Amara stood once more in the grand lobby. This time she didn't carry towels or cleaning carts. She wore a modest but elegant dress gifted by Clara, her friend who cheered the loudest for her victory. Monsieur Duval waited by the limousine, tipping his hat as she approached. Monsieur Duval waited by the limousine, tipping his hat as she approached. Before stepping inside, Amara looked around the glittering lobby. She saw the chandeliers, the polished floors, the faces that had once overlooked her. And instead of bitterness, she felt gratitude. because every shadow, every silence, every folded linen had led her here, to the moment she finally stepped into the light. She turned to Clara, who hugged her tightly. "Go, Amara," Clara whispered. "Show them all what they missed." With tears and a smile, Amara entered the car. As the limousine rolled away, the hotel staff watched silently. Some clapped softly. Some bowed their heads in respect. And Carter? He stood in the corner, arms crossed, a bitter expression on his face. But deep inside, he knew the truth. He had lost. Because power doesn't come from titles. It comes from dignity, courage, and the strength to speak when silence is expected. And that day, a black maid had reminded them all.